This room's like, I'm in my wife's office, which is kind of like it's kind of like a green room, I guess. Like, not a green room in the, it's really hot. Hey, I'm Benjamin William Hastings, and you're watching Bandkind.
I love
They,
that your wife has a green room for you.
yeah, I know. A green, what do you call it? A greenhouse. That's
Greenhouse. Yeah,
a
you're
greenhouse.
Hey, I'm Nick, and I'm here with Benjamin William Hastings. Hey, you have some really big songs that are out right now. How are you feeling about all this?
Thank you. Um, yeah, I mean, really good. It's been a whirlwind of a year or a couple years, I guess. And
Yeah.
and yeah, things are really exciting at the minute. So it's really cool.
One thing that I see in your songwriting, and the reason I say it's yours, is because even when you keep appearing in these collaborative writing efforts, I still feel that Benjamin William Hastings thing happening. And I love it. I just think that you
Wow.
write these like really like almost, I don't even know how to describe it in words, but it almost feels like a charging sort of anthem that happens, whether it's a ballad or whether it is kind of a fun track, an up tempo track.
Yeah.
I appreciate that very much from you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really kind.
Now,
Yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky to get to work with a lot of really great, cool people and kind of and write for their projects for a while.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that is something I love. I love doing that.
I want to talk to you about your co-write with Hank Bentley and with Brandon Lake and you.
I was actually writing with Brandon and Hank last week, and I feel like we got some really, really good stuff. So that's really exciting. But
I want to talk to Gratitude, a song that just won't stop. How do you feel about that from your writing perspective when you guys sat down to put that together?
so we were actually in Sydney, and it was with Brandon and
Dante and you.
Dante
Okay.
and myself. And it was the first time that I'd met either of those guys. And
Really?
they were still they were kind of quite, I mean, they're not fresh in the sense that they've been doing church for a really long time, but
Yeah.
I'd never heard anything Brandon had done yet. I knew he'd written This Is a Move with Tasha,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I'd just seen a video of Dante singing like a song online. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they just came over to my house, and we just had this really great couple of days where we just hung out, and we ended up kind of stumbling upon Gratitude somewhere in the middle of all that. And I remember especially when I met I mean both of them, but I remember because I really knew the least about Brandon when I met him.
Hmm.
Um I remember meeting him, and he sat down and started singing something, and I immediately was like, "Oh my, this guy's like really special." And I
Wow.
actually called one of my best friends, Ben Fielding, who's a great songwriter. He wrote like "What a Beautiful Name" and a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
And I remember
Yes.
calling him that night, and I was like, "Have you ever worked with this guy, Brandon?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Dude, he's like, he's like the thing. Like, he's like." I was like, "Give it 2 years, and like everyone's gonna know
Wow.
who this guy is." And
Wow.
so I actually remember praying in that couple of days. I was like, God, I feel like we could write something really special here that kind of helps that gives him a song for the next kind of what he's about to step into. And what was really cool about Gratitude is that it didn't necessarily feel like that, at least when the record came out. It kind of just it was a part of the record, and it kind of just but then over a few years it just kind of did its thing and ended up kind of becoming that prayer, I guess.
Yeah.
Um but it was a very sort of unexpected, like really cool journey. And I feel really honored to be a part of it. And yeah, and he carries it so well. Like yeah, he's amazing.
I'm so grateful that you're a part of it. I mean, it just it does have signatures of Benjamin William Hastings on it, and I love that. Your new collaboration that's out at radio,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you, Blessing, and Hank Bentley wrote that song. Man, the first time I heard it, I was just like, what? Like some of
yeah.
the lyrics
Well,
in that, like the one about the mountain, it's not always going to move a mountain, but it's good for the heart. and
Yeah.
just the like the double meaning behind that. Like it's good for our heart, but it's also like climbing a mountain physically. You're talking about
Yeah.
running this morning is good for our heart and part of the exercise of being a human being, right?
Yeah, completely. That song really was Hank and I really searched on that one. Like
Mm.
we wrote a lot of songs trying to write that song. Um
Wow.
and it was because I knew that the album as a whole is very long. It's like 25 songs and it dives and weaves through all of these kind of topics and kind of it goes through a lot of wrestling and like even a lot of doubts and a lot of insecurities and all these kind of places. But I wanted a song that kind of spoke to that, but from a bit of a more feel good, positive
Mm.
way, and almost kind of rounded the whole thing off. And what what I like about the resolve is that it's not really a resolve. It's like it doesn't say like, "Hey, I'm through it." It's more like the only way through it is going to be to praise.
Yeah.
And to me, that was kind of the resolve of the record. Like it doesn't things don't
Mm.
always go as you want them to go, and you've kind of got to be okay with that. And so at some point, get on board with the trust and the faith, and then so what do you do in those moments? So this was kind of um, yeah, it was a hard fought kind of song, but I'm really glad that we found it because it brings that like kind of light to. There's a lot of shade on the album, I guess, and so it brings that kind of
Right.
like positive sort of like um light at the end of it. And yeah,
Yeah.
Blessing was just such a perfect
Mm.
addition. I was actually sitting with Brandon. We were having lunch, and he was telling me about this tour he was about to go on, which is now that was a year ago now, but
Yeah.
um and he was like, I'm bringing this guy Blessing, have you ever heard of him? And I was like, no. And he's like, oh, you got to hear the song Tin Roof. So he sent me Tin Roof and I listened to it and I was like, this is one of the best songs I've ever heard. um
Mm.
and so I was in the studio with Hank a couple of days later and I was like, do you think he'd want to like come and be a part of this song? And we hadn't finished it yet. We still needed a bridge, the chorus wasn't wrapped up. And
Mm.
he was like, "Oh well, yeah, I just did Blessing's last EP," and I was like, "Oh, of course you did." So he he was like, "I'll call him and see." The coolest part was Blessing. He called Blessing, and Blessing's like honestly one of the hardest workers you could possibly encounter. Like every day he has a
Yeah.
session, and every day he has meetings. Like he's constant. But this
Mhm.
specific day, he said he'd kept free because he felt like something special was going to happen. And so he was like, "Yeah, I've got Monday, and I've been keeping it open." He was like, "Let's do it." So he came in. We finished the song really kind of quickly, and then he recorded the vocal there and then we walked and got some barbecue. Like it was a really, it was a really fun um, it was a really fun, special day, and just to meet him and I've got to know him pretty well now. Like we've obviously hung a lot since then, but
Yeah.
um, even just to get to see him, the way he can play. For anyone who doesn't know, he's blind, and the way that he can
Mhm.
just the way that he so freely kind of navigates the world, even with
Yes.
even in his blindness, is really inspiring. Like
Mhm.
it's quite amazing to watch the way that he plays piano better than anyone I know. He he yeah, you really do when you're sitting with him for um a while, you completely forget that this is
Mhm.
something that he deals with. And
Yes.
such an inspiring guy. And yeah, so such a I was so grateful that he said yes and came to be a part of it. And he made it so much better. Like
Mm.
I remember a funny story actually. We before the session, we were talking and we were just kind of going into just to different things. He's very open about being blind and some of the challenges of that or whatever. But he was saying one of the funny things is he's like in a writing session, everyone's curated their game face. So if you say an idea and they don't like it, he's like they know how to like not tell you that. He's like, but nobody's curated their game voice. So he's like, if somebody doesn't like my idea, I just immediately know. And so the whole session in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm like
What's
just
my
so
game
naked.
voice?
Yeah. So anyway, there was this something in the chorus. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he made like a tweak, and it was amazing, and I loved it, and I got so
Wow.
excited. And then we were all like, okay, great, like let's go with that. And then
Yeah.
there was this moment where I kind of looked at him and I was like, "You heard that, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, I heard that." So
Oh my
it was really
gosh.
cool. Anyway, yeah,
I love
the
the two
best.
of your voices together for sure. And
Mm,
I was recently out in California where you are, and
yeah,
there was a writing round, and Blessing started playing, his big song "Believe," and
yeah,
was just keyboards just playing. And then he took his hands off the keyboards and he said, "I hate this song so much." And
wow,
yeah, it was just like we didn't know what to do. And he's like, um, my sister recently passed,
yeah,
and now I got to live these lyrics, and I don't want to.
yeah,
And
wow,
so I really do appreciate his. And then he went ahead and played the song, and obviously it was more powerful than ever before because you could hear
wow,
it in his voice.
yeah,
And so I agree with you. He brings so much to American music, and
yeah,
I mean, and you have too. I just love that you have such a history in Australia, and now I'm so grateful that you're here. One of my favorite songs with your voice on it is Seasons. I can just not get
oh.
over that song. And I wondered, actually, did you ever trek to see the sequoias in California?
You know what? I think the song was inspired by when I was like 10. My parents took me out there to Yosemite.
Really?
Yeah, and that was the first time I saw them. And yeah, I think that it imprinted on me in some kind of way where
Oh, no doubt.
yeah, I remember just looking at the magnitude of them and being blown away. Even then, when I was probably too young to really comprehend. But
Hmm.
it's always stuck with me. It was really strange when the song idea kind of came. I was like, can we sing that? Like it's like that's kind of random to talk about sequoias in a
Mm.
song. And I was like, well, let's just do it. Like it's a Christmas record. I feel like we can get a little
Hmm.
adventurous.
Hmm.
And I'm really glad because it ended up with just that because that first line that came was like the "Your promise is loyal" from Sea to Sequoia, and then
Yes.
the story kind of just unfolded from there, where it was like, oh, okay, cool. There's a whole narrative here that we could really dig
Mm.
into, and
Yeah.
yeah, so that song was super fun to write, and it's been really cool to see that connect with people because that was another one of those songs that kind of flew under the radar a little bit and just find the
Yes.
people that it needed to find. And um and so it's been really cool. And I probably get as many people reaching out to me about that song as any other song, just from their own personal little stories that they've had with it.
Wow.
Um, which is really cool because it wasn't like a single. I think it was a bonus
Yeah.
track on a record or something. Like it was,
Can you imagine?
yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, tell me really quick about the collection of folks in Hillsong. And now, how do you feel seeing Taya and seeing Brooke and seeing you? And I mean, all of you guys doing your solo work. Is that
yeah.
satisfying, or does it feel like you want the home team back together?
Oh, that's a really good question. Um, no, I think it's a really nice shift at the minute, at least. Like, I think
Yeah.
it's really cool to see everyone kind of go off and do their own thing, and we're all very
Mhm.
supportive of each other
Yes.
and involved, like as much as we can be in each
Hmm.
other's stuff. And so no, I think it's really cool. And
Mm.
there'll be more. Like I probably can't announce other people's records, but there'll be more. There'll be more to come in in the near future. And so and we still work together. Like, well,
Of
I have a
course.
writing trip next week, and Joel's coming over for it, and
I love it.
so we and yeah, I can't say, it. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
yeah, so we're still all really close, and it's been exciting, and honestly something we um have been dreaming about and talking about for a long time. Like a lot of what's happening now has been in the works for like years and years. And so it kind of all felt really like it felt like a God thing, the timing of it all. And it just made a lot of sense that just the way everything's kind of, without saying too much, it felt like it felt like a God thing, that all
Amen.
these things that we've been working on and dreaming of for a long time, even writing towards, like Joel and I have been writing towards my record for 5 or 6 years. So
Wow.
the the fact that it kind of all happened when it did, I think there's a
Mm.
certain serendipity to that.
Amen. I believe
Mm.
that. I believe that. All right, before I let you go, I just want to tell
I,
you how much I love the music video to your song with Blessing in the
yeah,
riding shotgun, you guys filling this car with flowers. Something just as
yeah,
simple as handing on something physical to someone. It's just a
yeah,
beautiful representation of what you guys are doing every day with your music, encouraging people's hearts and giving them hope when it was unexpected. And
yeah.
I see that all over you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, that was fun. That
absolutely.
was my brother and one of my best friends, Jay. They have a like a marketing company, and they put all that all together for us, and they did such a good job, and it was really fun. It was such a fun day. I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't see anything like driving in that car with all those flowers. It was very not safe. And so I'm glad we
Right.
made it, and I got Blessing home safely.
Yes. Amen. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I'm here with Benjamin William Hastings and continued just blessing over your songwriting and your music and your upcoming sessions. And
Thank
we'll be
you.
spinning your music like no tomorrow.
Well, thank you so much. It was so good to
Thank
hang.
you. Yes, good to hang. All right. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. All
Okay.
right. Thank
Thank
you.
you. See you. Bye.
See you. Bye bye.